Hi, this is Wei Wei from
Hi,
UCSD.
Vivian.
Hey, Anu.
Oh, we just wait for a couple more minutes.
Hello.
Hi, Ron.
Hello, Anu.
Hi.
Hello. Is that Claudia?
It's me. Hi.
Hey. Just wait for maybe 2 minutes to see if Trevor will come.
Okay.
So we can get started. In the room here, we have Fa, Rilling, Nina, Shaoling, and me. On the call, we have Claudio, Elizabeth, Huni, Ian, Jeff, Nancy, Philippe, Ron, Todd, Trevor, Tim, um, Wei Wei, and Yuling. Did I miss anybody?
Hello, Alejandra here.
Hi, Alejandra. And I see Dave too. Maybe he's not called in yet. So on the agenda today, actually we have a pretty short agenda list, but I think we have a lot to discuss. So we want to talk about the features that we want to have for the version 2 release of DataMet. So Reling went over our previous version's features as well as the GitHub issues, and she's prepared a spreadsheet which has all the issues listed. And what we want to do is to go over this list and prioritize and decide which of them we want to get done by before the release of version 2. So basically our target features that we want for version 2. Also, I would like for us to go over the list of repositories that's to be indexed, and I have a couple of things that I think we should talk about there. And then if there are any updates from the team members, we can go over that briefly. So one of the action items is for us to generate a help and a FAQ page. I haven't seen anybody putting in anything, so maybe we start finalizing it so we can get it onto the website, I think, for DataMed version 1.5, and that can then be later, modified for version 2 if it's required. The other action item was the complete reindexing for a process evaluation that was supposed to start on the 16th. I realized that the 16th was yesterday and was probably a day off. So maybe to be started today. Jeff?
Yeah, Barack is, we're gearing up to start that probably later today.
Okay, so...
and we'll keep a track of sort of progress so that we get a idea of how quickly things are going.
So do you have an idea of how long it may take? Just, a ballpark.
I mean, since we're running through everything at the same time, I would say, I'd get something, on the order of, it should be done sometime, probably, early next week, I would assume. That's, doing everything and watching it. I'll know more as the next day or two, as we start plowing through things.
Okay.
Jeff, this is Ron. I think part of that assessment needs to be not just how long it takes, but whether and how frequently it needs to be done, whether it needs to be done quarterly or even monthly or whatever. Just that needs to be part of the calculation.
Yeah. No, I would totally agree that that's sort of the other side of the coin. One is, in this prototype mode, with the smaller scale infrastructure that we have applying to it, how quickly can we do it, and then also, how often do we have to do it is, as you mentioned, is the important other side of that. Because that also gets to, potential, future scaling of the infrastructure, to have more nodes for processing, for example, so that's how those two would tie together. Sorry, still getting over my child-induced illness.
I think there's a scalability issue here, and that the scalability issue is perhaps less important, but the other issue is what are, I don't know what to call them, I guess what are the logical issues that are introduced by the fact that one's doing repeated updates, and the question of, as far as our metadata schema goes, for example, how it accommodates the idea of, there's some content there from a repository already, and the question of whether one's doing a complete replace of what's there or whether one is updating it. And I think, the question of scalability and getting to the prototype where it's up and running and humming along and updating like every week from a bunch of repositories, that's not a goal that's necessarily important for the prototype, but what would be more important was understanding the factors that are involved when you have to update repositories on a repeated basis, so that we get some information, NIH gets some information about what it takes to do this.
Right, and there's the, as you mentioned, there are two sort of different types of recalls, right? There's sort of the update, and then there's the, okay, we have to sort of redo everything because either,
Yes.
something has changed in the configuration file, or something has
Right.
changed with the NLP. And so, yeah, and we'll do both. We'll do both of those types of run-throughs.
I mean, you might want to reserve the word re-indexing for where you want to make some change to the nature of the indexing that's done versus updates, which are essentially rerunning the same thing on a repeated basis. Does that? I think that captures the same difference that you're talking about, Jeff.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just getting the language straight, as you mentioned.
Yeah, the language is arbitrary in a sense, but you're right. There are two different things that are going on.
So,
But I think it is, just to emphasize, it is important to have some sense of what it takes to do updates.
Yep, yeah, and we're gonna do both. The one that we're gonna run right now is the update, and then when we have the revised NLP tool that we can apply to everything, we'll then do a complete. We'll have to figure out what word is for what. So complete reindex, yep.
So if there have been changes in the metadata, we would again have to reindex everything, correct?
Sure,
Well, I
you
mean,
add
if there's
other attributes.
if there's a change to a source's configuration, right, for the mapping. So if something gets added to DATS and no one has it yet, it's only once they start adding that, and then the pipeline can actually do partial updates. So.
So right now we are going to be doing updates then.
Yes, with the first, we're going to test the full update first, and then the next one will be the full shebang, the complete reindex.
Okay, this is very important, and it's a very good and clear distinction, and will help us at the NIH when we deal with our colleagues who ask this kind of question.
So the next item on the agenda is to look at the set of features that we want to, or that we have listed right now, and then we can figure out which of those we would like to prioritize for version 2 release. Let me. Maybe should I zoom in? So Rilling listed these, and some of these come from our previous list. In terms of expanding the number of repositories, that's still ongoing, and obviously that will be on the list. We have the data repository suggestion form, which is already the pipeline has been worked out and it's available. So I think if anything comes in through that, then that feeds into the indexing pipeline. So are we, I guess, Jeff, we are done with review and reconciliation between the curators, or is this something that would be ongoing?
I mean, it's sort of ongoing. As new sources come in, we add them to the spreadsheet, which will point out if there's new new important metadata that should be incorporated. But I mean, the primary reconciliation is completed, I believe, and then the the element that came out of that was the ontology for data types.
Right. So we are still working on improving the NFE based pipeline. Xiaoling is working on that. The other thing, and we foresee that we will be doing more evaluation of it before release of version 2. The other thing that was requested was to have a form, or a route by which users could do a bulk download of indices.
So how does this differ from the API? I mean, if the API, if the Elasticsearch API is exposed, doesn't that provide this capability?
Not a full bulk download, because you still have to sort of through, right? Yeah. So this would be, I believe this was more like a ability on the interface to click on a download icon and get the whole index for a certain source. Correct? That was the...
Is this for trying to replicate the entire content that we have somewhere else, or is it just for retrieving, programmatically just the search result?
I think we have a way for people to get or download their search results already.
Well, downloading search results is not saying it's not useful, but it's different than downloading.
Yeah, but not the whole, exactly.
I mean, you sort of need more information about this. Who's requesting this, and what are they trying to do?
Actually, I'd have to go back to our notes to see, because I know that this came up after release of version 1. But I do not exactly remember how and when, or who requested it. And I don't think there's an associated GitHub issue, so it's probably something that came up when we had our meeting. But even with the feedback form, you would have a GitHub issue, right? So if we have like a web API, which is what we've been talking about for the past couple of meetings, would that satisfy this this kind of a thing where they could go and pull in whatever information they wanted?
To get an answer to that question, Anu, it seems like we need to trace this back to the person who asked.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to do that. Okay, so let me go back to the notes and look for that.
But does the requirement for API access show up anywhere else on the list?
Oh, it does.
Skip ahead just to know. I mean, if it doesn't, we'll probably want to add it on.
No, it's been. I think there have been a couple of people who have asked about the API, including the folks from CEDA, and I believe even at the all hands meeting there were some questions about whether it's accessible, programmatically accessible or not. So. Yeah, I think it's on the list.
I think it's coming through GitHub as well.
Yeah.
Anu, this is Dawei. I just want to add a comment on the bulk download of indexes. I think I can see there's two uses of it. One is that maybe other people who are working on search and retrieval engines, and they just need data to test out. That can be one use of it. And another one is, I think when people do the search through DataMed, and if they have a negative result, or maybe there are too many results, and I think that can be the raw data for people to try to figure out what is happening with the search engine.
Okay. But then wouldn't they be able to go to the, oh, okay, that's still a search engine endpoint. So Jeff, how hard or how much effort would it take to facilitate something like this?
I mean, it wouldn't be difficult. I mean, you'd want to sort of cache for each index. You'd probably want to cache the bulk output, right? Instead of having to crawl the index every time for the request. And that's really the only thing that would, and then it would have to be integrated with UI.
And also, there was a suggestion that we could use common data elements to deal with the metadata. I believe Alejandra has started looking into this.
Well, hello. Actually, I followed up in the GitHub tracker because it's not clear to me what this means. So I follow up asking for more information. So I don't know if it was only something put on the tracker or someone else in the project has more information about what's the requirement.
No, so whatever came up in GitHub is everything we know about it. And I believe this issue was included once. I think Ian, it was you who presented DataMed at NIH, right? A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's probably.
So would you know the context?
I have to go back and look at it. You know, I mean, I agree with Alejandro. This is way too vague. I mean, the metadata issue. I mean, you know.
So that's all it says, though.
Any of these, I mean, we need more specifics.
Always in this section.
Before, you know, putting a lot of resources into implementing something we don't know. I mean, I will look back and see if I can see something.
Okay.
So exactly, my follow-up in the GitHub tracker was requesting more information. And I know there is maybe an unrelated discussion with George about CDEs, but but I'm not aware if it's from two different sources or it is related. So.
So
This is issue 206, right? Is the
yeah.
CDEs. I mean, in some ways, what the question that would need to be asked is, doesn't the metadata that's part the metadata project that George is doing as part of the FAIR supplement, isn't that covering what is needed? The person who submitted it was Ben Busby. I think he was sort of making well, all right. He was just the way he was reporting it. He was just drawing attention to the fact that NLM have a CDE portal, and if you want to submit CDEs, you can submit them there.
Oh, I see.
So, I don't think there's necessarily a request. I don't see a request in this issue for a feature in DataMed.
Okay.
I mean, something else to add is that I know that there is plan to set up a call with George about CDE, so maybe then we will know if it is related or there is something else to look at.
So also in the plan is to integrate the terminology server at the back end. I think that's been partially done, and that goes hand in hand with the NLP pipeline, or were we using that? No?
We use the terminology in the search query part,
Right.
not the analysis part.
We still need to annotate more data, right? I
Right.
think it's kind of
That's for the NLP
free,
part,
and
but
can he start annotating the?
Before he already annotated some,
I know, but
yes,
some models still print on Medline abstract, right?
right.
So we
All
need to
of them.
annotate.
Okay. Yeah, but we're talking about the terminology server in the backend.
During indexing
Mhm.
or
During indexing.
I'm not so sure actually how I the data. They're using it for search parts.
So, Jeff, I know that we had a couple of calls with you and Brock with regard to incorporating the terminology server at the back end.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the NLP services, right? I mean, that's how, on the back end, the NLP is putting...
It's sort of NLP plus terminology server, I think.
Currently, it's not like, because probably first we need to identify named entities, then enrich those entities based on terminology. So
So we need both of them.
So
So you
now
first
the
need the NLP
previous
server.
term plans.
Well, I mean, in the discussions we had, the main sort of enhancement around, the terminology IDs and all that was through the NLP, which was going to be written to a new section, right? I mean, that's sort of what, that we're doing, using the terminology server for the query expansion at the search prompt.
Right.
And then within the document, we're using the more full-blown NLP strategy.
So do you want to have this, or it just merges with the NLP module?
We can merge the technology.
Yeah, we need the both.
Both required. Because previously we could use this based on the keywords already assigned to this server, but since you are going to have an NLP to extract better keywords or all kind of mentions, then in that case it will be wiser to use it with NLP extract concepts and interface concepts.
And we will have this incorporated for version 2, or is that something that would take more time?
Yeah, I think it may take more time too. Right now,
Performance, I guess, some tuning and other.
but right now in the backend we only index we do not integrate the technology server into the indexing part yet.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Will it take more time?
Yeah, right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't integration of the terminology server something that's been in the works for some time, and hasn't it been factored into development?
They are using technology server in search parts from the first page, but in the indexing part, actually, because of priorities, I guess, this hasn't been complete yet. And also this requires some sort of entity recognition. So if we can recognize entities, then we can encode them, and based on this code, we can enrich them using terminology server. That's like little NLP dependent at the moment.
Right, and the entity recognition is part of that NLP pipeline.
So basically, like Egan said, terminology server supports both the on-the-fly parsing of the query user entered, which is implemented already and it's working now. But we can also using NLP process and using followed by terminology server to index the description of the data set. And that part is still working on. Because the last time I showed some performance about the NLP module, some of them still not ideal because we use some annotated data from Medline Abstract to predict, for example, gene names in the data set description. And the performance is not that ideal. And now, finally, we have people freed from the challenge, so he can start annotating gene names in the data description. So we're going to retrain the module to improve the NLP performance. Then that part will integrate together with the terminology server, go to index the data description field.
So in terms of usability issues on the UI, I think that improvements are ongoing, and that's the focus of the usability and user testing part that Todd and Gina are working on. For the most accessed data sets, I'm not sure if we have enough data to be able to get this information. Maybe we can take a look.
Yeah.
So maybe we could decide on whether this is something that's feasible to display, depending on whether we actually have enough material to have the most access data set displayed.
So Anu, for just going quickly back to line 11, for indexing, can we add NLP into that?
So I was going to move this actually up here to where we have the NLP.
Okay.
I will do that now.
Okay.
Can take this one off.
So when we have a change like that, and there are various, possible ideas here, how do we, test the value, test the effect of adding those, and to whether it's better with versus without a particular feature?
Yes, we can use the benchmark data set to test it. So at this time, it is difficult to say if adding all those like NLP and further index it will definitely improve the performance, because it also increases a lot of false positives. That's also our concern. And we also can look at the challenge participants to see what they did. They probably also do something on the description side to process and expand it, in addition to the query side, which what we already have.
But I do, when we generated the benchmark data set, though, we already included query expansion.
Yes, that's for query expansion.
Right.
So we haven't do anything on
the back end.
Indexing part.
We are also working on improving the tracking system, and this is something that actually should be ready according to Divakar and Ram by mid or at the most end of this week. So they want to test it out first, and after their testing is done, we will then work with implementing it at the on the DataMed side. So this is something I think which will be for sure done for version 2. So the new feature that was suggested was, one was to have alerts to new results from saved searches to be sent to the users. So is this something that, I know it's useful probably, because I know from PubMed, for example, I definitely find it useful. But is this, in terms of priority, how high is our priority of? So, would it be useful if we send this list around and have people say which they think is important and should be prioritized, rather than go through here?
Sorry, Anu, it was on mute. I was trying to respond. I mean, this is sort of an obvious piece of functionality. I mean, it's present in many systems.
Right.
I mean, you can set up a saved search in eBay to alert you to when your things you're interested in might become available. So, I mean, the concept of saved searches isn't that revolutionary. It seems to me that it's a useful piece of functionality to have, but would come after demonstrating that one can do searches that are valuable to someone and that someone would actually want to save and get updates in future. And I would prioritize things that demonstrate useful search capability ahead of being able to save searches.
We already allow users to save searches. This is the functionality that already exists. We just don't have any alerts for new results for those searches being sent yet.
I mean, that sounds like a bell and a whistle on an existing capability, but to me, it's much more important that the fundamental search capability works well first.
Okay.
And I'm surprised that we don't. I think we have many issues that are focused on that.
So maybe, I think since it seems like it will take a lot of time for us to go through this here one by one, I can send this around as well as put it up on the core development team folder and send a link and have people go through and just let us know what you think if for the additional functionalities that we are looking at, which of them should be prioritized. So the other thing that I wanted to quickly talk about is we have two spreadsheets. One is where whenever a metadata has been mapped, you go in and you add your spreadsheet to your repository information that you are mapping the metadata for in there, and put all the information as to when you started the sample data generation to when the transformation was finished and the ingestion was finished, and whether it has been entered into GitHub, etc. So this is the main spreadsheet that's expected to be used by folks who are actually doing the metadata mapping, and put in all the dates there. That way we can go back and update this other spreadsheet, which is what probably people who are looking to have a more high-level view of all the repositories that we have in the list, and get an idea of what repositories are currently getting indexed, what stage they are at, etc. But I just realized Ian asked me, one of the things is that I do not have individual information for those repositories that we pulled in from DataCite. So there is no way for me to enter that information. So for the most part, all these dates are being entered by me, because I look at the other spreadsheet, which looks extremely complicated for somebody coming in from outside. So, and kind of have it in a simplified format in this spreadsheet, and so people can get an idea. But the problem now is for the DataCite biomedical repository.
Yeah, they're all less than a day, because it's basically just changing the target endpoint at DataCite and then doing
okay.
So I mean.
So it takes about a day for these?
No, I mean with running them, depending on how large they are, but just the curatorial part is about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Because all we're doing is changing the collection at DataCite. So yeah, I mean, with running through and checking the run through, yeah, I'd say a day.
Okay. So I'll just make a list. I'd like to make a list because I think, Jeff, I don't remember if you were on that call, but we talked about the fact that on the data, even on our UI, Ian suggested that maybe for those repositories that we pulled in through DataCite, we should have it kind of listed on DataMed as being, as some kind of a how should I put it, a sublist that comes under the DataCite. So that it's clear that we are pulling the information.
My point was, it's slightly, this is a slight exaggeration of it as usual, but saying that it's a DataCite repository is like saying something's an Oracle database. It says something about technology, but it doesn't tell you anything about the content. That's the basic thing. So it doesn't tell us kind of what collections it is.
Correct.
So I'm not sure I understand. So right now here we just clump all of them together, right, in the spreadsheet. But in the UI, we have them defined separately.
Right. So the granularity that it would be sensible to have is the same granularity that we have here.
Oh, here. Okay, so Jeff, I would, I guess, need a list of all the repositories.
Okay.
So that we just list them out here.
Yeah, I think Yuling might be on the call. She can generate the list.
Okay, thank you. That would be great. And I have another question. So I do not know what these repositories are, where they come from, and I was hoping that somebody on this call were the ones who put it in, so they can tell me about it.
Well, Dash, is that related to iDash, which was Lucilla's?
But it says -R, ? And I tried to go back and look at the history, and this is like anonymous user, so I have no idea of figuring out. And it says it's NIH recommended.
Well, FITBR is the Federal Interagency Traumatic Brain Injury Resource.
Yeah, I've just
and so that's where all traumatic brain injury related data has to go. So it's similar to NDAR, the National Database for Autism Research.
Yeah, but it would be good for us to know who entered this, and because I'm not able to figure out.
FITBR was at the June meeting, the repositories meeting. And I know that they're implementing DATS as part of their core data model.
So is that iDash?
The second one might be related to iDash, but I'm not sure.
So Huni, do you
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
Because I don't know who's entered it in, because the idea is that we should be able to go back to the source.
Okay, so DASH might be digital access to scholarship at Harvard.
Yeah, it's most likely not iDash, because iDash is not a repository of a single kind so that you can index easily.
It could be the NICHD Data and Specimen Hub also.
Yeah.
Right? That is also Dash. I'll put the I put the URL for FITBR in there. I'll put the URL for this in there. But the one theme that comes out of this, I hate to say it, but this is housekeeping, right? We've got requirements that we don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah. We need to put a suggestion box where they're coming from and maybe the URL.
No, I mean, so if somebody entered it in the list of repositories, we just need to know who it was. So we know that it's somebody legit who's putting it in. Because for the reason we never had anything entered in here is because I was the only one that was entering stuff in. And so, I just don't know who entered this in, and it's fine if we know exactly what it is, and if we really do want to. So I went back to see if it possibly came through the repository submission, and it didn't come through that either.
Maybe from the June workshop list? Because I know Fitber was there.
Was iDash?
Sure, I don't know.
So this was done fairly recently. It was entered in on the 16th of January, so that's like yesterday.
Oh, all right.
Wow.
I pasted in at some point a list of some of the Common Fund databases.
Oh.
But I don't recall that Fitber was in that list. I was going to ask what happened to those, but I don't think it came from there. But that's around the timescale that I was putting those in.
But Ian,
not as late as the 16th.
If you put it in, I see your name there.
Yeah.
So it's, that's fine, I think. I just want to be.
Unless one is not.
January version.
And I don't know what CDLR is too. So. Anyway, so just to know, I guess until we know a little bit more about these three, maybe somewhere I think I'll put in a column which talks about the source.
Well, under any circumstances, this exercise should be related to an understanding of what is going into 2.0, so that we know when to check off when it's been done, and so we know in a comprehensive way what is going into 2.0.
Right. So I guess one of the points is that we want the list of repositories that are coming in to be repositories that were discussed, and we said, okay, we're going to index these.
Well, we've raised the point that at some point, and I could get that this might not be the case right away, but the addition of repositories to DataMed is different than a new version, in that once you've got the capabilities in the system that you can import a repository, you don't need to be changing the software itself to do that. It's a question of operating the pipeline and populating the metadata structure and the user interface. None of that is changed by adding a repository. And adding repositories should become at some point an operational thing that's not necessarily tied in with a release.
Right.
Now, I don't know how close we are or whether we should be attempting to get close to that goal.
I'm not sure that we're finalized.
But that's something that it would be good to get an understanding of what does it take to get to that capability. And that in itself could be looked at as a requirement or a feature.
Okay.
I have a question, but I can't see I don't have the spreadsheet open myself, but We had discussed in the past about indexing scientific data. Is that still being considered?
It's in the list.
Yes, I think so. We just finished mapping and downloading and indexing the data only last week, I think.
Okay, excellent.
In the
Thank
queue.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also just a reminder, please do, if you have mapped any of the data repositories that are here, please do go in and enter the information into the spreadsheet here. That way it's easy to keep track of what's getting in there and whether it's mapped, and it's easy to reconcile the metadata that's getting pulled in to see if there are any changes that need to be done to the metadata model, or at least amendments that need to be done to the metadata model. So that was the basic housekeeping stuff that I wanted to talk about. Everybody who's doing the mapping should be entering the information in here and not necessarily directly in the other spreadsheet. Are there any questions? Was there anything else that we should talk about? So if not,
Even
then...
if there were, we're close to 4.
I'm sorry?
Even if there were, Anu, we're close to the end of the call.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
late in the UK.
Right. If not, then we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.
Hi, Anu.
Yeah, hi, Uni.
So actually the call with ENCODE is next week, not today.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.